It's the 7th meeting of 8 in the 2014 FIM CEV Repsol, and for the very, very first time, the series makes its way to Portugal. There's still a lot to play for, particularly in the Moto2 class, which will be coming up first of all. Here we are then at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. We're just outside the town of Portimao, and it is an absolutely spectacular circuit. Look at that layout, 4.5 kilometers long, just over 2.8 miles. As I say, the very first time we've visited this circuit. Gregory Haynes with you in the commentary box. Look at that layout and look how it changes well with the elevation changes. Up, down, left, right, it's all over the place. Relatively new circuit as well, introduced back in 2008. But a new challenge for the 100 or so riders who are competing across the three classes here in the FIM CEV Repsol this weekend. A lot to play for then. I'm delighted to say as well that joining me here in the commentary box is Barry Veneman, who's actually raced here himself. Spectacular track, Barry.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable track. It's like a motocross track with tarmac, you know. It's a roller coaster ride. It's a rider's track. It's a lot of fun, of course. It's spectacular. It's what we want to have in the new tracks. It's relatively new, bumpy, and there's a lot of things going on.
Well, we come here fresh from the Navarra circuit a few weeks back. Look, this is at the start of September, and there was plenty of action going on there on that particular day. You can see that Edgar Pons was getting at the inside of Florian Alt very early on in the race, but there had been a few jump starts, and that was going to come back to haunt both of them later in the race. Pons and Tescher there, both down into the pit lane. Tescher, actually, Alain Tescher, the Frenchman, had started from pole position. Cito Pons there, twice a 250cc world champion, egging his son on. So Florian Alt was released at this point into the lead of the race, but being hunted down all the time by Jesco Raffin, the sensational Swiss rider who leads this championship. Plenty of action further back as well there between Steven Odendaal, and that was Tescher at this point fighting his way back through, but it was all to go horribly wrong for several other riders. Popov, for example, slid off the track into the third corner, and that was the end of Tescher's afternoon as well. Lucky actually not to take Edgar Pons with him. So the battle continued back at the front. Pons was fighting and almost losing control on his way back towards the front of the field. This was the battle at the front of the race. Could Raffin catch Florian Alt as they got towards the final few laps? Well, here they were into that final lap. Sympathy, you have to say, went the way of Florian Alt because he'd done everything right, but this was just 2 corners before the end of the race. Look how Raffin was closing all the time, and then was about to sell Alt a dummy into the final corner. Here we go. Right from one side to the other, up the inside. This is the very, very last corner of the race, and Raffin came through to take his 5th victory from 7 races so far this season. It's an amazing record for the Swiss rider. 5 victories in the last 6 races. Alt tried his very best to come back at him, but there was nothing he could do there, and through into 2nd place. And you have to say, so far, Barry, this season, Raffin has just been spectacular, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been out there every race and scoring points every race, of course, and then being on the podium. And he's had a goal, you know. He wants to be in Grand Prix, he wants to make the step. And if you want to do this, you want to make the effort into Grand Prix, you need to be here. You need to be here on top podium, top place.
And surprise, surprise, it was a very dramatic qualifying session after the first time then that the CEV has actually ventured here to Portimao. First time we've actually ventured to Portugal at all. Remember, there was a Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril until 2 years ago, about 300 kilometres from here, about 2.5, 3 hours drive from the capital city, Lisbon, and therefore Estoril as well, down here on the Algarve, real tourism capital, you could say, of Portugal. It's an area famous for its golf resorts, isn't it? Plenty of nice hotels as well, plenty of great beaches in this Portimao circuit. Built back, as I say, in 2008, and you can really tell so much care went into this track in terms of the layout. There's not really one corner that's, you could say, unfavoured by the riders. It's all been thought about very carefully indeed.
No, it's absolutely a rider's track. If you talk to all the riders here, especially the guys who are new, you know, they like it. It's fun. It's outstanding. And the problem is, it's never anywhere in Europe we don't have this. You know, maybe Brands Hatch. Brands Hatch is sort of the same, but all the riders here are positive about what's been built, and it's huge. Of course, the surroundings are huge, but the track has grip level is good. It's a little bit bumpy, but it's bumpy in many places. But it's just been one big adventure, especially for the young guys. You know, in Moto3 we have a lot of guys, 15, 16, here for the first time, and on a Moto3 bike it's even better, you know.
This is the pole sitter then for this morning's first Moto2 race of the day. There will be another one actually coming up later on at 4 p.m. You're with us now for 4 hours of live coverage. He's got a lot of action ahead of us. And Xavi Vierge then, the Spaniard, 4th in the championship, on pole position for the very first time in the CEV Moto2 class. I'm Tony Calvo down there on the grid. We'll be catching up with Vierge within the next few seconds. And then we'll make our way across the front row. Quite an interesting front row. It was a very spread out qualifying session yesterday. Vierge, Edgar Pons and Florian Out up there on the front row. And curiously, the championship leader Jessica Raffin, who's been very, very quick so far this season in qualifying. A bit of a struggle here yesterday. We'll be starting down there in 8th on the grid. Let's go down to Tony first of all on the grid then with our pole sitter.
Carrera de Moto2 en Portimao, desde la pole partiendo Xavi Vierge. Aquí has conseguido la pole, conseguiste la victoria en Navarra. Te vemos plenamente consolidado en esta categoría.
Bueno, es mi primer año en esta categoría, entonces estamos buscando cada vez que nos subimos a la moto mejorar un poquito más. Y cada vez estamos más cerca de donde queremos llegar. Entonces, muy contento con el trabajo que estamos haciendo hasta ahora.
Gracias, enhorabuena.
Thanks, Tony. Xavi Vierge then starting on pole position for the very first time in the Moto2 ranks of the CEV. Just saying we need to just keep plugging away. It's a big challenge. He's never started on pole position before, and who knows, it's still not over in the championship for him. He's there, 4th position, still 75 points maximum left up for grabs. Exactly the same scoring system as the World Championship, 25 points for a Grand Prix victory, 20 for second, 16 for third, down to 1 point for 15th place. Right then, Edgar Pons will start in the middle of that front row. Let's head back down there.
Desde la segunda posición de la parrilla tenemos a Edgar Pons, el hijo de Sito Pons, que está aquí ultimando los detalles previos a la salida. Sito, ¿qué tal lo has visto a Edgar y qué tal está sobre todo Jesco, que tiene aquí posibilidades para conseguir el título, pero que sale en una inusual 8ª posición?
Bueno, Edgar está muy bien, ¿no? Ha hecho unos entrenos muy buenos, siempre entre los primeros. El viernes ya fue muy bien y la verdad es que también en Navarra estuvo ya a punto de ganar la primera manga, la segunda también. Y bueno, hizo segundo y bueno, vamos a ver, yo creo que está creciendo muchísimo, es tan solo su segundo año participando en velocidad y la verdad es que estamos todos muy sorprendidos de cómo se está acoplando a la velocidad y la recuperación y la tan veloz que está haciendo, ¿no? Con lo cual espero que haga una buena carrera, ¿no? Teniendo en cuenta pues, la poca experiencia que tiene, ¿no? Y en el caso de Jesco, pues sí, está 8º, es una posición de salida mala para él, pero bueno, yo creo que en este warm-up le ha ido muy bien, hemos hecho unos cambios en la moto, se ha sentido de repente mucho más a gusto y yo creo que él en la carrera se va a rehacer y hará una buena carrera como siempre.
Gracias y suerte, Sito.
Gracias.
Sito Pons there, twice a 250cc world champion, just talking through the situation. His man, Edgar, the son of Sito, second of his 3 sons in the middle of that front row of the grid. Less experienced than Axel Pons, of course, the elder of the 2 sons. An interesting situation as well is that his teammate and championship leader Jessica Raffin is back there in the middle of row 3, 8th on the grid. Right then, 3rd on the grid here, Florian Alt. Watch out for the German.
Florian Alt again in the first row. It's difficult, but you still have some chances for the title because your main rival, Jesco Raffin, starts in 8th position.
I think everything is open and we can fight for the championship, of course.
How do you think about this race? Do you prepare something special?
I think we have really constant laps and we can sure fight for the victory if everything runs normal. And I want to win this year, and this is my target.
Thanks and good luck.
Florian out there then completing the 3rd row of the grid. Just to remind you of the starting grid then for this Moto2 race, first of all, it's Xavi Vierge on pole position for the very first time. Then it's Edgar Pons in the middle of that front row. Florian out, we just heard from there with Tony Calvo on the grid, completing that front row. And you've got Alan Tescher, who started on pole position last time out in Navarra. He'll be joined on row 2 by Stephen Odendahl. Filipini, the Italian, is in there as well. Then it's Vitali Raffin, championship leader, and Dakota Momola. Don't forget him as well. Son of Randy Momola, 4 times a 500cc world championship runner-up. Momola will start down there on row 3. Here's Tescher then. Interesting situation last time out, Barry. He was on pole position, but jumped the start. Pressure of pole position, I suppose.
Yeah, probably there. Alan is like last year Moto3 Grand Prix. Step back is the wrong word, but he's here trying to prove himself worthy of Moto2 in Grand Prix. And yeah, to be on pole is a lot of pressure there. And he's actually, especially for this race, he's a good rider. I thought he was a good rider in Moto3 also. Didn't get the right chance maybe. But now here he's back, he wants to prove himself. I think he's going to set some surprises here.
Yeah, 32 race starts it is actually for Tesha in the Moto3 World Championships, so plenty of experience, isn't it, for him? And this is Stephen Odendaal, then the South African, another man with World Championship experience in the middle of that second row. You know, this is a very, very competitive grid, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the guys here are, especially Florian, of course, and Jesko, they are here to make the next step again into Moto2 World Championship. And yeah, they're here to prove a point. So therefore, you've got some very interesting guys here. You got some of the more experienced guys who came from Supersport and keep riding Moto2 here, but a lot of guys here are waiting for the next step.
This is Federico Fuglini completing that second row. We're just having a look down then on the Portimao track there. It was 4.5 kilometres, just under 3 miles in length. Now, you've ridden and raced here yourself, Barry. It's a challenging circuit, not just because of the combination of corners, but the elevation changes as well.
Yeah, it's strange. We were here the first time in 2008 with the Supersport World Championship, and the roads weren't finished yet. We just got here and we're like, whoa, what's this, you know? And it's a spectacular track. Everybody loves it. It's becoming more bumpy and bumpy. It's sort of a problem, but in the end, you know, the layout, the elevation, everything is just great.
Yeah, talking of bumpy and bumpy, we saw a high side this morning, actually, didn't we, during the Moto3 warm-up session for one of the Dutch riders. This is Moto2 in the meantime. Now, don't forget the Moto2 class. If you're joining the FIM CEV Repsol for the first time here with our coverage from Portimao this morning, Moto2 is actually split up into 2 races in one, really, because you've got the Moto2 runners at the front of the field and then the Superstock 600 bikes as well, which are racing in the same race, but in a class of their own, obviously slower motorcycles, and they'll be battling themselves further back in the pack. This is where the tension rises. And I suppose at this point as well, Barry, you've got so many people around you, the entourage, you've got grid girls down there, mechanics, reporters at times, and I suppose it's nice just when everyone gets out of the way and you've got a clear track in front of you for the first time.
Yeah, it is. Most of the times when you're standing there, you like think, okay, what's the 5 minutes for? You know, why do I have to be here for 5 minutes? Of course, it's a commercial thing. And a lot of guys just race the race in their head, you know? Just trying to make the first lap, make the start, play it over and over again in your head, just to be ready for the race.
This is Jesko Raffin, then could be a very, very big day in the life of Jesko Raffin. May well claim the title here in Moto2. Now, there are 2 races for Moto2 today. Mathematically, he could claim it in this very race. I think it's more likely it'll be sewn up in the second race this afternoon, which kicks off at 2 p.m. local time. It is a big championship lead, though, for Raffin. He's 32 points ahead of his nearest challenger, Florian. Oh, we already know Raffin is off to the World Championship with the stop-and-go team, the SAG team. Next year, that's the team currently running Louis Rossi and Titi Pongwarakorn in the World Championship. Simeon and Schrotter the year before, so some proven talents have gone through that team. Raffin is only 18 years of age. He really has set the world on fire, hasn't he, this year in the CEV. One big difference, though, Barry, is that they're obviously racing on Michelin tyres, aren't they, here with Moto2?
Yeah, I was thinking about how can you compare the Spanish Moto2 against the World in Moto2. First big difference, of course, level of the bikes is one, but tires is a big difference. The big Michelin rear tire, it's a 200, which is quite wide for a Moto2 bike, especially on the small rims. And yeah, it's a completely different setup because the rear tire is really high, the front tire is quite low. So the comparison between World Moto2 is hard. Also the lap times, I wonder.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Obviously Dunlop in the World Championship, Michelin here in Moto2 with the CEV. Vieja away them from his very first pole position already. A winner this season, last time out, the first of the 2 races there at Navarra, and another 3 third places on top of that. So 4 times a podium finisher this season is Vieja. He's 65 points behind, so mathematically the championship title is still on, but 65 points behind and only 75 left up for grabs, and that would be for winning all of the remaining 3 races. 2 here in the Algarve and then 1 in Valencia in 2 weeks' time, you'd have to say. It's a bit of a long shot. Let's run through the grid then. This is round 8 of 10 for Moto2 in the CEV this year. Vieja on pole for the very first time. Edgar Pons up there on that front row from Florian out, who just missed out on victory in Navarra last time out. Row 2, Tesha, Odendaal and Fuglini, the Italian. It's Vitali. Championship leader Raffin may well claim the title here today, and Dakota Momola completing that 3rd row. And you can see it's quite an interesting mix of nationalities. You've got Swiss riders in there. There's the other Pons in 16th position. That's Mikkel Pons. No relation, though, to Axel or to Edgar. Tony Finsdebush, another name you may recognise from the World Championship over the last few years. And look out for Thibaut as well there, the Frenchman in 21st place, who actually leads the Superstock 600 ranks at the moment with a 21-point advantage over Ferran Casa. So that's another battle going on further back in the pack. 32 rider field and a brand new challenge. They've never made their way down to this first corner before at Portimao. The exploratory lap, then I have to say this is one of my favourite parts of the track. It's the plunge downhill from turn 11 into the fourth and final sector. Lap is split up into 4 sectors, exactly as it is in the World Championship. Many similarities. There's your championship standings then. It's Raffin leading Alt by 32 points. Remember, 25 maximum up for a race victory. So it's certainly still on, but it's looking very good for Raffin, you have to say.
Yeah. But he's been the more steady rider. He's more experienced. He's been here for a year already. And of course that helps a lot. You know, Florian is out there proving himself, trying to go the next step. Jesko is a little bit more experienced. I know him from the Dunlop Cup in Germany, where he was also on the standard bikes outstanding. You know, he was the talent of that year. And then we lost him for 1 or 2 years, and now he's back. So I'm happy for him.
And it's hard to stress as well, Barry, just how important this series is now as a feeder series. CEV, as it is, was brought into action in its current guise back in 1998. Repsol came on board as the title sponsor from the start of last year, and this really is now an international championship in many ways, isn't it? Obviously, many of the races still based in Spain, but we had a race for Moto3 at Le Mans earlier this season in France, and now here in Portugal for the very first time. Now, it's all about staying calm at this moment, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the moment. You know, you wait, the red flag goes, lights go out. The group is not so big, so this is going to happen fast.
So just the last few riders will be getting into position. See the red flag at the front of the grid. They'll get a green flag towards the back of the grid. Carlos Requejo, then the race director, will instruct that red flag man to move out of the way. Obviously the riders won't see that green flag towards the back. They'll be seeing those starting lights. We are all set then. It's the 7th of 8 meetings this season in the CEV, and this is round 8 of 10 in Moto2. Here we go. And away we go, and that wasn't the best of starts, you have to say, for the Pulsar. Vieja bogging down their front wheel lift, and it's Edgar Pons who leads them down into the first corner. Up into second place comes Florian Alt. Again, another great start then for the German. And are they all going to stream their way around this first corner without problems? Into turn 2 and into the Lagos corner at turn 3 for the first time. Perfect start then for Edgar Pons. Alt is second. Stephen Odendahl's made a fantastic getaway. And somebody down already. That is Tesha. Tesha certainly down there at Lagos corner. Oh dear, it's exactly what they didn't want, isn't it? Early on in the race, 2 riders caught out there. We're going to try and get going again, but 17 laps in front of them. That is exactly the worst possible situation for Alan Tesha, who's down there in the gravel. The rest of them are streaming up in the meantime to turn 3, and then turn 5 with the VIP tower on the inside. Now, what happened? There's Tesha in the background. We're just going to see him coming into shot. There's the contact.
Gets taken out there.
Yeah, that's just an unfortunate situation, isn't it? Let's have another look from behind. You know, that's another incident, isn't it, going on as they came out of turn 4. So it's exactly what we were saying, Barry, unpredictability. They've never done the first lap here at Portimao before.
Yeah, well, they're all not, of course, enthusiastic. They want to go, you know, they want, and 17 laps is a long way, especially on those big Michelin tires. You need to get some warmth in there and try to stay cool.
Stay cool.
Yeah, yeah, of course, but Alain should know better, or he couldn't do so much about this. But too bad it didn't go on, you know. Sometimes when they crash together, there's so much fighting and so much things going on. Pick up the bike, go.
So away they go. The rest of them away cleaner. This is into the final corner. You can see there's a shorter loop there for car racing, and the bikes go the very long way around turn 15. They're cranked over there onto the right-hand shoulder of that tyre for such a long time. A good 8 to 10 seconds there out of that final corner. Over the brow of the hill, coming through to start the second lap then. Vieja down from pole is 4th. Raffin has made a very good start. The championship leader from 8th on the grid is running 5th as they come through to start the second of the 17 lap series. Edgar Pons leading. Alt is second for Modendahl. Vieja, Raffin and Vitali up there in the top 6. Problems further back there for Francisco Higaldo. Let's see what happened. This is the plunge down from turn 11 to 12, and that was caught out low side by the looks of things on the exit of turn 11. Plenty of runoff here, which is obviously good because we're seeing plenty of incidents already this morning, and another one gone. It's chaotic first lap. That was Max Girardo out of action further back in the pack. Oh dear. Silvera, I apologise, he is down. But this is exactly what we're saying. They need to be more careful. What's that? 4 or 5 riders already down on this opening lap.
Yeah, but Portimao has like the instinct. You cannot see where you're going. Everything is uphill or downhill, so it's pretty blind. You're riding blind, and then when you make just a little bit of a mistake, you just hit the other rider or you go too wide, brake too hard, and then the mistake is made. So, but a 47.8 on a standing start is not bad, huh?
No, it's not. We're obviously getting the first lap times of the weekend. There were 2 qualifying sessions, and the best time from each session goes through 2 pole position, then it's the same starting order. When we have 2 races, sometimes it's 1 race on the weekend, sometimes it's 2. Moto2 have 2 here this weekend, and it will be exactly the same starting grid. It was indeed Max Durado Silveira, obviously 2 surnames for many of the European riders who went down. Now look how things are hotting up here. This is only the second lap of 17. All of this battling is actually allowing Pons to break away slightly. Alt is actually coming under pressure here from Steven Odendaal. And you've got Vieja. It wasn't the best of starts for Vieja. The front wheel lifted, didn't it, as they got it away. Turn 15 at the end of the lap, and don't forget Raffin as well, come to be in there at the moment for 11 championship points for that 4th place. Now look at Odendaal, absolutely in the draft of Alt down the start-finish road. Odendaal's obviously got designs on winning this race and having a real go at Florian, and Alt not through on the inside this time. And this is something we were talking about off-air this morning, Barry, where the car loop rejoins the track here. There's a bit of a bump, isn't there?
Yeah, you get the joints of the tarmac, and you get these bumps, and there's no solution for setup. There is just no finding a way of getting rid of them. You just have to find, where do I cross them? 1 meter farther to the inside or wider. And when you get to the corner 5, corner 5, you can see the same thing. When you go in, there it is, you know? It's just there. They know it, they have to find a way. And some riders are better at it than the other.
And there's not really anything you can do to avoid it, is it? You're going to have to ride over it at some point.
You can put every setup in there, every spring you want, but you won't change it.
This is the run back up through turn 6, 7. This is turn 8 now. This really is spectacular stuff. This is where you've got your Brands Hatch, your Cadwell Park-like situation with the front wheels rising. It is spectacular to watch. Look at Odendaal, fastest that time round on their second flying lap of the race. Their first flying lap of the race as it was. This is lap 3 of 17 now.
Yeah, he's faster than he was in qualifying now.
And that's obviously a lot of that down to new track, isn't it?
Yeah, and also because of the competition. Now he's making a mistake though. What you see now with Pons is trying to get away. Okay? Make the gap bigger. And just Alt is just staying in there. And Odendaal is, maybe it's a speed up. It's a different bike, of course. It's not a Kalex, and it's just a little bit more out of control, pushing more, trying to stay there with Florian. And I'm not sure if this is going to last for a whole race.
Yeah, let's see. You'd expect some fireworks, wouldn't you, over the next few laps or so. Don't forget Pons, by the way, who's leading this race at the moment, still in with a mathematical chance of clinching this title. He's 53 points behind championship leader Raffin, yet to win a race. It's the season opener in Jerez early on in the season back in April, so certainly ready for another victory is Edgar Pons. Back down towards turn 1 again, and the camera angle there just does not do it justice, the way the track plummets down to the right-hander at turn 1. This is the championship leader Raffin, comfortably running around here in 5th place. He's 4 seconds behind the leaders, but it's points, isn't it, for Raffin? He critically, unlike others, stayed out of trouble from 8th on the grid around those first few corners.
Yeah, points. The other way around is like his Grand Prix deal is done. It's baked and done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you want to win. You want a championship which you win, and not by consolidating. But he was the best rider up until now, so he should be able to do better. Because if you look at his lap time, 48.1 at the moment, 6-7 tenths slower than the others. He should be able to go faster than this.
We've also seen Fuglini coming into the pit lane. Obviously, he was the rider who tangled with Tesha at turn 2, so plenty of drama went on there on the opening lap of this race. This is the championship leader then. If you are just joining us, this is lap 4 of 17. Live coverage of the FIM CEV Repsol here from Portimao in Portugal. Very, very first race here at this fantastic venue, designed back in 2008. This is the championship leader Raffin. There's your gap, live gap, left-hand side of the screen. So he's 2.5 seconds behind Xavi Vieja, who started from pole position but made a bit of a bad start. Was lucky actually to hold a top 5 spot, to be honest with you, down towards that first corner. Alan Tesha tangled with Fuglini into that second corner, and that is a big blow actually for Alan Tesha, who's 6th in the championship, 75 points behind the leader, and was trying to push back up into the top 5. It's not looking great, but Raffin in the meantime, what sort of lap times are we looking at? With the leaders crossed the line last time in 47.2 it was for Edgar Pons. Raffin put in a 48.1. He's managing the pace at the moment. Now then, back at the front of the race, look at this, they've caught Pons. So Alt, who was under pressure from Odendaal just a few minutes ago, now goes through and takes Pons at the start of this 5th lap, and certainly you get the feeling, Barry, that this top trio now just beginning to break away slightly from Xavi Vieja. He's another second behind. There he is in the background.
You see Odendaal sliding there. You know, temperature is getting under control, and now they're going to make some moves. The problem is 47.5 is not so fast. If you look at World Supersport here, beginning of the year, they did 45s in a race constantly. So, okay, they have more power, but they also have slightly less tire, I think, and they have a lot more weight. So these lap times should go 1.5 seconds faster for sure.
This is all just pushing. Look how he's trying to make up a bit of a gap now over Edgar Pons behind him. Yet to win a race this season is Florian Alt. 4 times, though, a second-place finisher, including the last race in Navarra when it was Raffin who came through and passed Alt right at the end of the race. We saw the highlights at the beginning of the programme. Came through and took him into the very last corner. Look at Odendaal. It's looking a little bit leery, isn't it, with Odendaal? It's not too comfortable to watch. And look, just as we say it, Odendaal has got it completely wrong at the top of the hill. Coming through turn 11, rejoins, but Raffin says thank you very much. And he's promoted then to 4th place.
That's a big problem in Moto2. You can't make mistakes like this. You know, it's such a class which it's so close. Every 10th of a second is something. And if you make mistakes, if you push too much, you won't last for a whole race. And 17 laps is a long way, but it's not 23 laps that they do in World Moto2.
He was lucky, actually. Look at the bike here in 3rd place. Right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a big wobble from Odendaal. That's through the Portimao corner and then into turn 11. Actually, Raffin did not go through. He only lost the 1 spot to Xavi Vierge, who's now up into a podium position. There's Odendaal on the white and red bike there in 4th place. Raffin still 5th as the championship leader. Now look at Pons. Difficult downhill braking zone there, isn't it, into turn 1?
You know, these guys automatically put their feet out and it works normally. But if you put it here out in Portimao, where you go down the hill, you can see his feet is touching the ground more than he wants because smoke is coming from the booth. And, you know, that's not what you want. And it's giving him a lot of wobbling, you know. The stability is gone when you put your foot over the peg.
This is lap 6 of 17. Quick run down in the order then, while things have calmed down briefly. Might not be too calm for long though. You can see the different line for Alt in comparison there with Pons around the left-hander of turn 5. The VIP tower on the inside, Sito watching on. Well, plenty of experience, 2 times a 250cc world champion, but always knows, I think, to be watching his sons. Don't forget it's Axel racing in the World Championship. Edgar Pons has made a wildcard appearance in the World Championship this year. 3 sons actually for Sito. The 3rd son, though, not quite so interested in the bike, so perhaps he's the smarter of the 3, you could say. Raffin then, there's your championship situation. Certainly wouldn't be clinching the title at the moment. And look how defensive Florian Alt, who's leading this race, and needs these points while Raffin's further back in the pack in 5th place. Come down then to 18 points from 32. That would be a big chunk actually to decrease it by. There's still 2 races to go. One later on here this afternoon and the other in Valencia in a couple of weeks' time. Full rundown then before something else kicks off at the front. It's Alt from Pons. Vierge is 3rd. Oh, and something else has kicked off at the front. He's wide. Alt wide, and through goes Edgar Pons.
Sometimes attacking is the best defense, eh? Whoa! Big speed wobble.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. He's just got to keep him calm now, hasn't he, as Florian Alt. He's lost the lead. He doesn't want to lose these championship points.
Watch this replay.
Here we go. So Edgar Pons through first. This is around the right hand of turn 14, and then there's going to be a big wobble for Florian Alt, who's now in 2nd place, down into the final corner. I have to say, Barry, that was a great save because it's very high speed through there.
Easy to lose it there, easy. But that sort of is the different size of tires, because if you look at the front tire, which is quite low, and the rear tire really high, it means it puts the bike up on its nose quite severe. And a bike which has a lot of weight on the front normally is unstable.
So here's your situation. Pons now behind Florian Alt, ahead of Florian Alt, so it's Pons leading. Oh, Vierge is still 3rd. Odendaal is holding that 4th place, but catching Javi Vierge. You can see them in the background. 5th is still championship leader Raffin. He's just settled in there in 5th at the moment. Troutman is 6th from Chesto, then it's Vitali. Gomez is 9th. And further back, by the way, leading the Superstock 600 riders at the moment is Thibaut, the Frenchman. So that's looking pretty good because he's already the leader in the Superstock 600 ranks with that championship leader. 21-point lead over Ferran Casas, who's further back in the race at the moment. So it's looking pretty good, you have to say, for Thibaut. They stream then down the start-finish straight. That's where the other runners are. And these are the leaders up at the top end of the circuit. I still think as well, I have to say, it's not inconceivable that we still could have a 4-rider battle at the front here, because you've got Vierge who's trying his best to close in. I think Vierge and Odendaal, though, are going to have to work together here, aren't they, to catch these 2, Pons and Alt, back at the front.
That should be the most clever solution. At the moment, Odendaal is fastest on track, and he's 6-7 tenths a lap faster, so he's closing, and he's going to take Vierge with him. So it's going to be interesting. What Troutman is quite impressive, to be honest. It's the first time on this bike here, and to be in 6th position here. Yeah, impressive.
It is right up there. It's the number 46 Troutman. Perhaps we'll see him later on in the race. That's the Austrian rider. Great stuff. It is impressive stuff from the AJR. Meantime, this is the battle going on for 3rd place. Pretty much at half race distance now. We'll be at half race distance at the end of the next lap, lap 9 it will be. This is lap 8, and again a puff of smoke there. That boot just touches the ground for Edgar Pons. Alt right with him. It's interesting, everyone's a little bit stronger than everybody else, aren't they, in a different part of the track, and that's why it's bunching up. Look at those two behind, they are definitely catching. The gap was just under 9/10 of a second from second back to third place at the start of this lap. And Odendaal there as well. I think it's fair to say Raffin, perhaps unlike Raffin actually, settled for 5th place here. He's not going to get involved in any antics.
Yeah, but he's off the pace completely in my opinion. 48.5, he's 1.5 seconds slower than the others, and it's not good enough for a champion in my opinion. You know, with Vierge and Odendaal for closing, it's typically Portimao, because if you can see the rider in front of you, it's a big advantage. And Alt is back in the lead.
Yeah, retaking it from Pons. That was coming out of turn 5. This is at the top end of the track now at turn 8. But you're right about Raffin. I mean, he was 1.2 seconds down, wasn't he, in the qualifying sessions yesterday? Some of the riders posting their best times in the first session, some in the second. And the best combined times clinch that pole. Now look at this at the front. That's very, very wide indeed here for Florian Alt. But exactly as we predicted, those two behind have now caught them. They're not catching, they've caught them. That's Vierge in 3rd place, who, let's not forget, started this race from pole position. And then Odendaal's there as well in 4th. To be honest, you could throw a blanket over the 4 of them at the moment. Watch this. This is the change for the lead into the left-hander at turn 5 earlier in the lap. And Alt just finding the traction, wasn't he, there on the exit there? Took a wider line in by the looks of things and sweeped underneath.
This line here, Alt is choosing a different line all the time. He's trying to get so much speed out of Greg Jones' corner that he's ending up wide and therefore on the inside for turn 11. And maybe not the best solution now.
Now then, here comes Odendaal. We're coming through to complete half-race distance very soon indeed. That's the battle going on for 3rd place. This leading quartet, this bunch now are some way in front of Raffin. Look at the gap back to 3rd place. That's the championship leader, Jesko Raffin, and he is through. Odendaal then up into 3rd place. It's been quite a charge, hasn't it, for Odendaal. Started 5th on the grid. He's been off the track once and rejoined at turn 11 earlier on. In the meantime, let's have a proper look at this track. This is turn 3 then, the Lagos corner. They flick it left now into the 2nd sector. This is turn 4. Punch the power on down to the left-hander at 5. The VIP tower situated on the inside, just off camera here to the right-hand side. Alt leads. Pons is still 2nd. Then it's Odendaal bearing in. And look at Vierge. That's a major struggle to get it slowed down into turn 5. Exactly what you've been saying there, Barry, with the bump.
Yeah, you're on full brake and you have to reduce speed, but the bump is going. So when you hit the bump, normally you release the brake a little bit. You go from 10 bar to 8 bar just to give the suspension a chance to catch the bump. And yeah, but if you're too late, you can't. You just have to keep squeezing, and then when you hit the bump, you're out of there.
Alt knows this championship lead is going to decrease dramatically if it stays like this, with Raffin currently back in 5th place. This is where he's taking, quite frankly, a really strange line, isn't it? It's up through the Portimao corner there at turn 10. This is 11, then they drop down, quick punch on the power, flick it left again for turn 12. Now we're into the 4th and final sector of the lap, sweeping back up the other side. You can see this corner actually from our commentary box. This is just in the background there, and it disappears. You can't see where the track goes. It just disappears into the horizon. It's now Pons who's going defensive on Stephen Odendaal. This is a battle going on further back in the pack with some of the Superstock 600 riders. This is Luca Vitali in the meantime, the number 70 there.
He's fairing hanging loose.
So maybe a bit of contact, would you suggest? He's definitely damaged, isn't he, on the right-hand side there. And the left-hand side for that matter. He's definitely hit someone or something, hasn't he? Look at the damage to the left-hand side of that bike. Let's see if we find out now. There he is.
It's the front mudguard.
Yeah, so there must have been a contact there under braking, you would imagine. Obviously that's going to be causing a bit of an aero deficiency, isn't it? Still going though.
It's not helping.
Now then, I'll tell you what's not helping here for Pons. It's Stephen Odendaal who's really piling the pressure on. You've got to say Odendaal looked the more comfortable of all of them earlier, and then he ran off the track. He's been catching up since then.
Yeah, he dares more, let's say it like this. He's playing a little bit more. It looks more spectacular, but he's not afraid. He's not afraid to try, to get risks, which in my opinion is better. I think Altus at the moment is getting more and more steady. He's doing a 47.6. The lap before was 47.2. Yeah, he's getting a more steady pace.
Don't forget the championship situation as well. It would decrease by 14 points, right down from 32 points at the moment. That's the lead for Raffin over Alt. Come right down then to just 18 points with 2 races to go. It would be all to play for. Look at the wide sweeping line Pons takes there around the right-hander of the Portimao corner now. Then there's that damage you spotted back into the pit lane. Then comes the number 70. That is Vitali, Luca Vitali. Is he out of the race or can they get it going again? He's pretty furious. Try and get going again. Obviously was causing too much of a problem. Now I suppose when he's leaning it left, if that thing's dragging along the ground, it's going to cause quite an issue there. At the front of the pack, this is Alt leading Ponce. It's getting quite intense, isn't it, up at the front of this race? They're just sort of settled it down slightly now, and then you get the feeling it's all going to explode again over the next few laps.
They should actually make more pace now, you know. They've got their rhythm. Just put in the laps, 47s, 47s. Go faster, faster, try, stop fighting and go.
Big look behind then for Edgar Pons. Here comes Odendaal, he's on the charge. He has been all race long so far, and the South African is through. Great stuff. Started 5th on the grid, up to 2nd then at the start of lap 11. So 8 laps to go here out of the 17. Pons drops to 3rd at this point. It's still Alt in the lead, and he's been there for some time now, hasn't he? Then it's Vierge. What's he going to do? Can he try and close in from that 4th place? Made a pretty bad start. Was lucky to stay out of trouble when his teammate Tesha came down at that 2nd corner on the very first lap, or the 3rd corner I should say, the Lagos corner on the very first lap of the race. Further back, this is Alejandro Medina with the Team Stratos bike. There he is running around in 19th place. He's a long way back at the moment though. It's quite spread out, isn't it, as you can see further back. These are the riders then down 19th, 20th positions, rounding that 15th and final corner into the start-finish straight, whereas the leaders are right around the other side of the track now, up by the VIP tower at turn 8. Here they are over the brow of the hill. Then it's up to the Craig Jones corner, named after the very, very talented British rider who sadly lost his life in a World Supersport race, an accident there at Brands Hatch 6 years ago. And look at this now, back at the front of this field. Alt, Pons, Odendaal, Vierge all locked together like one long 8-wheeled bike now. It's interesting to see Vierge though, Barry. He's just sat there in 4th place for some time now. He's not really made any stab at trying to overtake. He's just surveying the situation really.
Yeah, but still the race is long, huh? And you know what is also interesting? In a world dominated, whoa, Odendahl's going for the inside. I think Alt made just a little mistake and Odendaal went for it.
And I think Pons is going to come through as well, is he? Yes, he is.
But in a world dominated by Kalex KTM, you've got here a speed up here at Test 3. I think that's a good solution. It's a good way that we also have different bikes at the front.
So Odendaal finally hits the front for the first time this afternoon. He's been pushing very hard to do that. Twice a podium finisher this season is Odendaal. Yet to win a race though, down towards that first corner. Look at them. Absolutely together. That's Alt on the inside with Edgar Pons and taking the position again. He's just been swapping position all the time. And obviously Suter's in the field as well. You're right though, it's a fantastic mix. And what are we going to see here? That's obviously been an incident, hasn't it? For Payajes, yes, that's down at the left-hander of turn 5. Plenty of runoff down there. You've actually got the car racing loop as well, which is actually now on. So Payajes rejoins the circuit there from the car racing loop down at turn 5. So back at the front, Odendaal from Alt, then it's Pons. And Vierge still in that 4th place. Quick update on the championship leader. He's now 10.5 seconds behind this group is Jesko Raffin in that 5th place.
You can see at Odendaal he's ready to fight, he's ready to mingle in the group, but now he has to lead, which is a different situation. 48 free lap time now. It's going to be interesting when he hits start finish or what he's going to do. I don't think he's able to run up the front. I think he's able to fight but not lead.
And let's see, what will be going through the mind as well now then, Barry, at this point for somebody like Florian Out. He's defending there very madly indeed from Pons. And look, Vierge for the first time sits Pons up around the right-hander of turn 11. That was aggressive stuff from the Spaniard on his fellow countryman. Pons won't be best pleased, pushed out down to 4th place. Should be able to catch them with all the drama that's been going on. But for the first time then, Vierge is now cutting into this battle. He's sat there in 4th for quite some time. And now attacking up the inside of Alt as well. He's really on the charge. Almost contact between them into the right-hander of turn 14. How did that unfold? He's still behind him at this point. Is he perhaps, you get the feeling, just worried that Odendaal is going to try and break away here?
Yeah, maybe, but also he has the feeling, you can see the lap times, you know. If you do 46s in practice and you end up 48s in the race, you know you can go faster. You know you have more. So when the group is holding you up, you want to go past them, and then it's 5 laps. Now is the time.
Rocket past us, back down towards turn 1 again. Odendaal leads, then it's Alt, then Vierge, as we know, very much in 3rd position now. Pons pushed back to 4th. Raffin, look at the gap at the bottom of the screen, 11.7, nearly 12 seconds then behind the race leader with 5 to go here. And Popov has made a good start. Popov is trying to finish the race this time. Slid out last time in Navarra, 6th in the race. Thibaut is still the Superstock 600 rider. He's 13th overall in the race. I mean, a very strong race actually here so far this morning. And now then Vierge on the move again, but that's a brave place to try and come through at turn 5. You can see it visually as they tip it into the corner, the bump they all ride over there. And yourself, Barry, I mean, you know all about that. You had a big high side there on a World Supersport bike a few years back.
I had the same situation. We had a practice on Saturday. We had a lot of rain on Saturday night. On Sunday, lap times were slower. And I just didn't make the connection, you know. I was riding and thought, hey, I can go 1.5 seconds faster, I'm going to try it. But the situation on track was just less grip. And yeah, it gave me a big high side. It was a really big one. And Too bad I was in third position, but that's what's happening here also. You know, lap time's 49s now. They should go faster.
And what is going through your mind when you're in a high side situation? Are you thinking, oh no, I've lost my third place, or this is going to hurt?
It's a lot like skiing or snowboarding. When it gets quiet, then it's going to hurt. Because if you go through the air, you don't hear anything. It's just you wait for the impact.
Once again, Vieja just behind Odendaal here. Is he through to second? I think he may well be through this time. Alt was there, and look, as they emerge into turn 15, Vieja has gone second. That's the second lap in a row that he's tried to put a move on Alt through that 14th and penultimate corner. This time, he has made it stick, but look what it's done. Odendaal's putting away slightly at the front. They crest the brow there. Over the line they come on to lap 14 of 17, just 4 to go here, and Alt's going to respond immediately. Pons still sat there in that 4th place, and Alt is back through. Vieja having none of that. And in the meantime, Odendaal is now 0.6 of a second ahead of them, and in the lead of this race. It's exactly what Odendaal wants, isn't it, at this point? And they're coming up to lap back markers as well. Now that could be an issue. This is the Lagos corner at turn 3. And there is an art, isn't there, to being lapped. You've got to move out of the way and try and save as much time in your own race as well at the same time.
To be back marker, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's not going to be fun, of course. It's probably difficult.
It's Thomas Cezanne, they're coming up behind there on the green bike. Now, this is not in a good place, actually. This is one of the worst possible situations for the leaders to be catching a back marker. Up through, look, you can see the blue flag waving. This is up through turn 8. This could be actually a good situation for Odendaal and use it as a break, actually, to pull away from those behind. Alt comes through. Vieja comes through. Now it'll be Pons. Watch the front wheels lifting. Look at that. Spectacular over the brow there up towards the Craig Jones corner at turn 9. You have to say, Odendaal, certainly in my opinion, he's looked the strongest and the most comfortable of the 4, apart from that off-track moment right here, very early on in the race. He seems to have just been the more solid of the 4 so far. I don't know what you think, Derek.
He's taken a lot more risks than the others, and he's been more brave. He's not the fastest out there, but he's been more brave. And at the moment, I'm saying not the fastest, but he did do the fastest lap time in this race. But at this stage, lap times are not so fast. He just had the right decision to move on the right time. And if you can stay out of the slipstream, if you can keep Florian from slipstreaming him on the straight, he probably can keep this one to the end.
And just the 1 third place for Odendaal. He's yet to win a race. Look how wide Vieja is coming on to the start-finish straight. But just the 1 podium finish so far in the Moto2 ranks here of the CEV for Odendaal. So he's pushing very much now for a first victory of the season and first victory ever. We have just 3 laps to go. Vieja still second, and this is really going to tighten things up now in the championship battle with Raffin struggling. And this is not a good situation, actually, is it, for Raffin, knowing there's another race coming up this afternoon?
No, the strange thing is that he was quite good on Friday, not good on Saturday. Press release this morning said, okay, hey, we had a bad day, I'm going to forget about this bad day and go forward. But being defensive is not going forward. Being defensive is riding around and laying the fate in the hands of Florian.
And he really is marooned, isn't he, Raffin? We haven't seen much of him because he's stuck down there in 5th place. He's nearly 13 seconds behind these 4 at the front. He's 8.6 seconds ahead of Popov, who's running around in 6th place. Must be a frustrating situation as well to be running around on his own. There's not much he can do, no reference, nobody around him. Raffin's stuck down there then in that 5th place. This is really going to punch things up in the championship. I suppose the good news for Raffin, if any, is that Odendaal's passed Alt, so that's taken another 5 points off Florian Alt at the top of the championship. So he's still 3rd. Pons, he's just lost a bit of ground, hasn't he, Pons, since he was shuffled off the track up the top of the hill there a few laps back. Not quite in touch. He's a few more bike lengths behind them. He's almost half a second behind these 3 at the front. It's Vieja who's really on the move at the moment. Alt also pushing for his first victory of the season. Again, Vieja very, very strong up into the right-hander there of turn 14.
He's quite strong on brakes. Strong
Yeah.
on the brakes, for sure.
And this is Raffin, then we've been talking about him. Don't forget, championship leader. I suppose, good news, as we said earlier, he stayed out of trouble around the first lap. We saw there was a lot of trouble into turn 3. Championship leader. Oh,
No!
Odendaal has a problem from the lead.
A big problem.
Well,
Looks like the whole suspension is gone. Maybe the gear, the link broke, or...
Oh, that is disaster
Yes.
for Stephen Odendaal. He was on for
Dangerous.
a first win. Let's see.
Whoa!
Whoa, look at that. And that is a high-speed area for that to happen as well. Coming out of turn 14 into 15. Odendaal out of the race from the lead. Can he believe it? He was on for a first victory. Yeah, that could have been a major, major accident
That's
there, Barry.
really dangerous, yes.
Wow, so Odendaal out. We're on the penultimate lap here at Portimao, the first ever FIM CEV Repsol race at Portimao, and all sorts of drama there. Odendaal out of action, so Alt is released. Good news then for Raffin, who will go at 1 place as well now. Championship leader will go 4th. It's Alt here in the lead. This is turn 5. Vieja is 2nd, and Stephen Odendaal cannot believe it. to be honest, apart from that one error earlier, he did everything right. Started the race 5th on the grid, came through, was never headed once he took the lead. And Stephen Odendaal out of action. That's major, major news for the man who is 7th in the championship. You have to feel for him. Who's going to win this motorcycle race in the meantime? 1.5 laps to go. Alt leads, Vieche second. And Edgar Pons has dropped back. You're getting the feeling now it's going to be between these two. Look how far back Edgar Pons has dropped. I suppose Pons did well as well to avoid any distraction then when Odendaal pulled off the track.
Could have been in a dangerous situation. And it's going to be interesting these last 2 laps with Florian and Javier. Florian has to think about the title. Javier can do a little bit more risk. He's strong on the brakes. We've been trying it here for a couple of laps now. It's going to be very interesting the last lap. I have the feeling that Florian's bike is a little bit faster on the straight. So if Javier wants to make a move, he's got to do it before the last corner.
Here they come then. Alt on the Kalex. Vieche is riding the Tech 3 bike, as Barry was mentioning earlier on, around this very, very long turn 15. And all through the race so far, I've been watching it, we haven't seen any passing at all, have we? By the time they've got to the finish line there, which is quite early on in this very long start-finish straight, there's been no passing, so he's got to be ahead of him, as you say, before they get there. Lap traffic again. This has been an issue all race long so far, particularly in the second half, and look how tight it gets. Around turns 1 and 2, into the Lagos corner at 3. And they're just passing their number 7. That's Anton Aremin on the FTR, cleanly out of the way. Good stuff. I'd say the Marshal's doing a great job as well here at Portimao with the blue flags. Quite confusing at times to know who to wave the flag at, but certainly well out of the way. And up into turn 5. Alt then, he's desperate for a win. He just missed out on victory last time out when he was passed at the final corner.
And just Pons made a big mistake coming into the corner.
So that's certainly it. I think any chance Pons did have coming into this lap, and it wasn't looking great. Anyway, you have to say, was it for race victory? He's going to have to settle then for that 3rd place. Raffin is still 4th, and it's Popov in the top 5. Troutman's had a fantastic race, hasn't he? Up there in 6th place from Chesso. Gomez is 8th. Boyatos, who had that problem earlier on at turn 5 and rejoined, his 9th. Mikel Pons, no relation to Edgar. Mikel Pons is up there in the top 10, and Thibaut is on very much for the Superstock 600 title. You have to say this season in their 12th overall in the race itself. Back at the front, this is your battle for the lead. It's Alt versus Vieche. Now then, if anywhere, where is he going to pass? Because he's running out of corners.
The next right, he has to make the move, the next right one.
Here we go, then up to turn 14. I don't think he's close enough, is he?
No, the gap is too big.
He's going to close, goes all the time, and it's a very, very long flowing final corner, which is coming out right now. Surely this is going to be it this time for Florian Alt. 4 times a 2nd place finisher already this season. Coming through to take what will be his very first victory of the season for the German. It's been a fantastic race. He stayed out of trouble. Oh, and a big wobble coming through the final corner. He was lucky Vieche wasn't a bit closer to him. Florian Alt wins then. Round 8 of 10 in the FIM CEV Repsol for Moto2. Absolutely delighted. He did a brilliant job there. Vieche second. Edgar Pons on the podium dropped to just under 3 seconds behind in the end. And here comes Jesko Raff. And it's certainly not the title. The championship lead has been decreased. And he finishes this race in 4th position. Over the line comes the very, very talented Swiss. And you have to feel, though, Barry, for Stephen Odendaal, who did everything right. And it just looked like the suspension collapsed, didn't it?
Yeah, the whole link system. I'm not sure how old the bike is, but it's not something you want to happen to anybody, you know. Well-deserved win. Well-deserved for Florian Alt, this one.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Half an hour of great drama, wasn't it, for Alt? He was up there at the front of the race, you have to say, all the way through. Started 3rd on the grid, came through, took the lead, stayed out of trouble. Okay, yes, Odendaal was ahead, wasn't he, at the moment of the problem. But even so, Alt was piling the pressure on. And there is your number 97 of Xavi Viejo. That was a great ride, wasn't it? Who knows what might have happened if he hadn't had that poor start. Did start on pole position here. Very first pole position in the CV here this afternoon. Viejo second in the end. He just seemed to have the edge, didn't he, in that race? Yeah, he was strong in the braking, but apart from that...
Javier seems to be very fast in the slow, hard braking corners, and a little bit slower here on the last section where it's got to be fast and flowing. And Florian just had the edge here. So if they figure that out, if they make the bike better in those sections, he has a chance. Otherwise, on this track where the finish line is just after the last corner, you won't have a chance.
Yeah, on the podium then. He has won a race already this season. That was last time out at Navarra, but it's his 5th podium finish of the season. It's very, very consistent stuff. Really, the big question mark you have to say is Raffin. Why should Raffin be struggling so badly here when the others seem to be finding the groove at the front? Raffin, let's not forget, he finished that race almost 20 seconds behind the winner.
Question, when was his Grand Prix deal settled?
After the last race, wasn't it? After the Navarra race. Do you think that's a big factor then?
Could be, mentally could be a factor. Like the pressure is gone. The whole I want to reach this. This is my goal, and the goal is there. Is in your grasp. Then you're maybe less focused, maybe less interested here. Could be. I'm not saying it is, but for young riders, this could be a possibility.
Well, it's true. He knows, I suppose, he doesn't need to win the title now, does he? The Grand Prix deal is sealed. Doesn't want to get himself into any sort of trouble, risk hurting himself. Even so, they're Raffin a long way back then, 20-odd seconds behind the winner. This is Vierge into the pit lane. Great stuff. That was a brilliant debut, wasn't it, for Portimao, you have to say, in the CEV. Moto2 putting on a great battle there. Just to confirm to you, Thibaut did win the Superstock 600 honours further back, finishing the race overall in 12th place. There is Jesko Raffin, and this very, very talented 18-year-old Swiss rider. You know, he's up into the World Championship next year with the stop-and-go team in Moto2. Watch out for him. But as we've said, there's a lot of challenges. You can see the Michelin logo there on the mudguard at the front of the bike. Dunlop tyres in the World Championship. That is one of the biggest, if not the biggest factor moving up to the World Championship for Raffin next year. But for now, then, it is all about Florian Alt. He was up there for the whole race. Started on the front row in third, was battling with Pons, battling with Vierge and Steven Odendaal. And it is finally then a victory for Florian Alt in Moto2 this season. Let's run through the full results then of round 8 of 10 in Moto2 for the CEV 2014. Alt winning then for the first time this year. Vierge on the podium for the 5th time. And Edgar Pons just dropped back, didn't he, after that mistake towards the end of the race. Raffin picks up solid championship points as the championship leader in 4th place. Popov was 5th, and great stuff as well on the AJR by Lucas Troutman to complete the top 6 there. Saw Boyatos there, who finished 9th, running off the track at turn 5. So under the circumstances, it could have been a lot worse. Obviously, surviving, there was a lot of attrition that went on in the race, particularly in the early stages. It was 4 or 5 riders, wasn't it, taken down or went down through errors of their own on that first lap. Well done to Thibaut, the Frenchman, finishing 12th overall. Bertin Thibaut, one hand certainly now then on the Superstock 600 title. As you can see, there's a big difference between the Superstock 600 runners and the Moto2 runners, over a minute there behind, but critically leading the class and 12th overall in the race. Quite a lot of field spread effect, wasn't there? You have to say a lot of riders were dropping back as the race went on. Florian Alt certainly wasn't, though, in going through that Parc Fermé procedure as a winner in the CEV for the first time this season. Let's get down there then. Tony Calvo is in Parc Fermé with Florian Alt.
We are with Florian Alt. Congratulations for this fantastic victory in a really funny race.
Yeah, really funny. I mean, the beginning it was quite good, but the tires after 6-7 laps go down so much, and we slide a lot of drifting, and yeah, the last laps I know I can more than Odendaal and also as Vierge, and try my best, and at the end it was the victory, my first, and I'm really happy now.
Congratulations and good luck for the second race.
Thank you.
Well done, Florian Alt. Don't forget, he's still not out of this championship battle either. He's second to Jesko Raffin. Raffin finishing 4th here this morning. We'll get a full rundown of the championship points in a moment, but solid performance there then for Florian Alt. Let's just run you through the highlights of the race. It was Vierge who started on pole position for the first time ever in the CEV, but it was going to be the start, wasn't it? That front wheel lifting, and that's really what dropped him back. And the lights, watch the pole sitter. Up goes the front wheel. Now down into that first corner, and we were about to see Alan Tesher connecting, weren't we? There was the contact. A bit of a silly incident, Barry, I think it's fair to say.
Too bad for the race. Too bad for the race.
More trouble on the first lap. A lot of riders doing a very good job to avoid any such issues, and bikes scattered in the middle of the track. Look how many riders went down. This was all across the first 1 or 2 laps of the race. Now then, back at the front. It was Pons leading at this point with the white fairing, number 57. Odendaal in that second place. Florian Alt, he was always up there, wasn't he? Coming through, this is very, very early on down into turn 1. Cito understandably a little bit pensive and a little bit nervous, but Alt was punching away. Don't forget that at this point. He had a healthy advantage as the battle went on for second behind him. Pons then came through. This is at the top of the circuit into turn 8. This is that really tricky braking zone into turn 5. And again, Alt just finding the traction on the exit, coming back through. Odendaal, who was about to lead very soon, was sitting in 4th place at this point. The swapping of positions going on. Don't forget, Alt and Pons were pulling away at one point. Issues further back. We saw mudguards flapping around, riders having to come into the pit lane. That was Luca Vitali, who, don't forget, started the race 7th on the grid and was furious with that one, having contacted with another rider. Dislodged that front mudguard. You see in the back of the picture every now and then a flash of Raffin, championship leader, who dropped back into that 5th position. And now this was Odendaal. He came through, past Pons, past Vierge. Now he was taking the lead from Florian Alt. It was to be short-lived though, because we know there was that major problem towards the end of the lap. And that's, I think, another critical move there for Alt there, Barry. He just kept his head even when he was dropped back to third place. And there was the problem for Stephen Odendaal. That could have been a disaster.
It's just scary. I've seen it one time before in Jerez in the triple right-hander behind the paddock, and you can have a serious crash when your suspension collapses.
And it's a very rare thing to happen as well. You don't often see that big moment for Florian Alt coming out of that 15th and final corner, but it was victory for the very first time this season for the German. Just deserts, you have to say, after being pipped to victory last time out in Navarra at the very final corner. Well done then, Florian Alt. We'll see in a few moments what that does for the championship. Don't forget, Alt second coming into this race, which is another reason why he's absolutely delighted with that one, knowing Raffin finished back there in that fourth position. They'll make their way up to the podium now. The riders may well have just been watching that highlights video back as well, with some of the television screens positioned around the podium. Great debut for Portimao in the CEV. Up to the podium they head. You can see there Thibaut, the Frenchman, on the right-hand side, as well as the leading Superstock 600 rider. The privilege of standing up there on the podium once again. Interesting to see the laps as well towards the end of the race. They came down to 47.2 it was for Alt on that last one, despite the moments at the last corner. Well done then to Thibaut. Leaves the Superstock 600 riders once again, finishing the race overall in 12th position here this morning. It's coming up to 20 to 12 local time now. Great stuff from Edgar Pons. Started on the front row. Certainly was challenging for victory for the duration. Just dropped back though over those last 2 laps or so into third place. Great stuff for Vierge, 5th podium finish of the season. And as we know, it's Florian Alt who leads the way. Got a lot of World Championship experience underneath him as well. And certainly after being pipped to the post at that last race in Navarra, you'd expect quite a big round of applause here for Florian Alt. And so it's the German national anthem for Florian Alt. Congratulations to Florian Alt, first victory of the season then here at Portimao in Portugal. And he closes in dramatically now on Jesko Raffin, championship leader who finished down in 4th position, was running 5th for much of this race, but Stephen Odendaal, with that dramatic suspension problem just a few laps from home, took him out of the lead of the race. And Florian Alt as well was fortunate, you have to say, to avoid that huge scare into the final corner on the very last lap. It was on the exit. There's your podium then. Alt from Vierge and Pons. And your Superstock 600 leader Thibaut, who actually finished the race 12th overall. Very, very strong morning then for Thibaut. And don't forget, these riders will be back out there later on as well. The final race in our coverage starting at 2 o'clock local time. Just coming up to midday then now here in Portugal.